Mashiach Yahweh Mashiach Yahweh.
Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters, and Islam. Greetings, peace. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in this evening. I'm your host, Tazadaq, an aggrieved man trying to teach others how to actually properly stand as a man from that capacity. Um, I would like to begin by, saying that I've been actually often contacted by many people that's actually been needing assistance for this debtor's prison known as child support. I mean, a debtor's prison, it's actually supposed to be illegal, but as many of you have actually come to realize, it is not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just actually speak for a while, a few minutes, and then I'm going to just open up for questions. And again, this is a live stream event. This event is actually taking place live now. And the only one that actually wouldn't actually tune into this is just a moron that pretends to want assistance, but you know um, don't want to put forth the effort and invest the time. And to those of you that's tuning in, hey, donate, show your appreciation. This is a live event that would actually allow you to ask questions regarding child support, um, your pending perhaps child support or custody case. Again, this debtor's prison are alive and well in America. Incarcerations of child support debts is part of a broader set of policies that's actually been enforced upon many persons. So, those of you that's actually attending this webinar, feel free to ask questions when I open this up. How you may be able to approach your particular case of child support, and how to make claims against those complaints, because only a man can make a claim. Attorneys do not make claims; they make complaints. If they want to make a claim, they have to do so as a man and take the stand and swear on the Bible. An attorney cannot do that or affirm on the Bible. An attorney cannot do that. A social worker cannot do that. If they do that, they have to do so as Bob, Mary, and so on and so forth. And then if they have a false claim against you, then hey, you make your claim against Bob, against Susie, against Mary, not after the attorney, not after the social worker, but for informational purposes, you go after the man or the woman. So you essentially learn how to effectively fight back, to resist the tyranny, to resist this debtor's prison. Learn how to write a notice and a claim as a man. Not all of this sovereign BS, and all of this fancy legalese that get you jammed up and get many of you thrown into the box. Stop being a victim and learn your rights and how to stand as a man. Case in point, many of you may not think is a debtor's prison. And what these women or these money grabbing dragons, not all of you, just about 99.9% of you, well, that number may be a little high. Let's say about 95% of you, you're money grabbing dragons. Some men, once you've actually dissolved the relationship, then you get vindictive, and many men are doing as best as they could possibly do, but you go after them because you want to live better, not necessarily the son or daughter. Now, case in point, Dwayne Freebie, a 36-year-old father of four has actually been sent to jail 5 times over the past 12 years on civil contempt charges for failure to pay his court ordered child support. Now, the first 2 times, he spent a couple of months behind bars until his mother came up with $3,000. Then the black robe, that many of you refer to as judge, and most of these are usually magistrates, told him that he had to pay. So his mom, came up with $3,000. The third go around, he stayed in jail, scrape up to get out. These black robes and these attorneys. And if you didn't know, child support is federal. It's not state, it's federal. The state actually gets approximately 65% to go after you. So it's in their best interest to go after the man. And it's usually always the man. Very rarely is it the woman. So we got to tell the truth tonight. So the fourth time, this man, he had to wait until his fiance received her tax return, to get out of jail. Or also, he spent about a year locked up. And I, Tazadaq, an aggrieved man, contend that there is the difference between a deadbeat dad, and a dad broke dad. So, is it really deadbeat dads or dads beat to death? That's the question by the system and money grabbing dragons. Now, there are some, women, sisters that, they don't play these dirty games. But for the most part, most of you do. That's just the truth. Civil contempt is essentially a debtor's prison, which they claim is illegal. I thought that a debtor's prison was illegal. Debtors' prisons are alive and well in America. Incarcerations of child support debts is growing rampant. It's going rampant. And to those of you that think that it isn't, just talk to some of these men that's actually been victims of this nonsense. There's plenty of people that's actually been victims to this. So, the concept of debtor's prison is usually deemed a thing of the past. So you thought. Something out of some novel, or something like that. But just this past June and July, in the state of New Jersey and New Jersey counties, they conducted one of their twice annual raids to arrest people who are actually behind in child support payments. Now, to those of you that live in New Jersey, you know about this. And if you doubt what I'm saying, and a matter of fact, don't believe me, go and check it out for yourself. Or just talk to someone that lives in Burleson County, New Jersey, or the state of New Jersey. Now, after the raids, several New Jersey County Sheriff offices issued press release proudly announcing and bragging the number of deadbeat dads they locked up, bragging about it. So, New Jersey is not alone. A little while ago, Lebanon, Pennsylvania. Now, I never knew Pennsylvania had a place called Lebanon, until I heard about this child support nonsense that was going on there. In Lebanon, Pennsylvania, they issued a bench warrant for people who were actually behind on child support, in addition to publishing these debtors' names. They published the people's names in the paper. So the trend is abundantly clear. Criminal justice community and its color of law system, incarceration is increasingly routine to child support enforcement and practice. Now, even though many who owe child support are indigent, and as of this past August, it brings with it, or August coming up in 2015, it brings with it National Child Support Awareness Month. That's absurd. Now, and I know many women are, jumping up and getting real ecstatic over this, while the men mourn it. An obscure, designation actually established in the mid 90s by who? The so-called first black president, according to the Negroes, blacks, and coloreds, and so-called African Americans, Bill Clinton. He established it in the mid 90s by the Clinton administration and linked child support enforcement with Clinton's welfare reform legislation. Now, so it's clear that federal policies towards the poor actually encourage toughness in collecting on child support, areas. So it often results in local incarceration of child support debtors. So I tell you, brothers, you never want to be a debtor. You always want to be a creditor. Debtors always lose. Debtors always lose. If you think back a couple years ago, me and brother Eliah had a show. Me and brother Eliah Dowdell had a show entitled Creditors, Debtors, Contracts, and Commerce. We stopped the show because you would not donate. You people always want something for nothing. You always want to take, and never give back. So we stopped the show. They out, Tazadaq, where did you stop the show? Well, we're putting in our time, energy, all of these years of research, and you won't even donate. Many of you didn't even donate $10, $20, $50, $1. But when you go in dishonor, you turn and you call for help. Oh, I don't have much right now. But what about when you had something? Why didn't you donate? But nevertheless, states and counties maintain the authority to lock persons up for their child support debts. And it's being pushed and pushed and pushed, revealing one of the many ways in which poverty is actually criminalized in America. What are you saying, Tazadaq? Well, what I'm saying, this is more highly probable in the so-called black and Hispanic community. Now, that's just the truth. And if you doubt it, I'll pull the statistics and prove that. New Jersey County Sheriff are actually mandated to conduct the arrest raids. Now, they do raids as part of the state funding they receive. So if they don't do these arrest raids on what they refer to as dad beat dads for child support, then the state don't get the funding. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to enforce it. And they stand behind the policy. So, I believe that it's important to have the ability to arrest violators and bring them before the court when they do not pay child support. That's what a sheriff, Gene Stanfield of Burlington County, New Jersey, stated, and I quote, those was his exact words. Gene Stanford of Burlington County, New Jersey. He wrote that in the email as well. So without the threat of incarceration, he went on to say, far fewer custodian parents, who's usually always women, would be receiving the child support, would not be receiving the child support owed to them. So, the arrest in Burlington County took place last June 18th, 19th, and 20th, and a total of 48 people was arrested, men. Now, according to the documents provided by the Sheriff's Department, this same sheriff Steinfeld on July the 25th, 4 of the child support obligors, because that's what you are, you're an obligor, you got to pay it, remain in prison. 5 were actually jailed for more than 2 weeks, and several was actually jailed for 1 to 4 nights. All but 4 had, ostensibly, they're all of them were males, except for 4. Now, Sheriff Steinfeld, he done a press release where he was bragging about arresting these men. And what he did not bring out in the press release that I done my own research on, that nearly 1 million in child support arrears were actually owed to the county has not yet been actually paid, and they did not reveal how much money they actually collected during these raids. So the arrest raids generate nothing but small sums of money in connection to how much is actually owed, or what they claim. Let me say that correctly. What they claim is owed, because who's claiming that you owe debt? That's my question. So in Mercer County, New Jersey, these same type of raids, these recent raids, resulted in 41,000 in unpaid child support payments. Now, Mercer County also led the state with 84 arrests for not paying child support. Yet 41,000 from a county that actually led the state in arrests is misconstrued, because over 2 million is actually owed in support arrears in Mercer County. So arrest and incarceration for child support, women, sisters, arrears persist even though they may not even be effective in yielding the payments or in the best interest of the state. So why are they doing it? So when I looked at a report back in 2010, report, in for a penny, the ACLU found that incarcerated indigent defendants unable to pay their LFOs, their legal financial obligation, is what they refer to it, often ends up actually costing the state more and the counties more than they could actually ever help to recover. So in 1 2-week period, 16 men in New Orleans, Louisiana, was actually sentenced to serve jail time when they actually could not pay the LFOs, the legal financial obligation. That's what they refer to it as. So if they serve their complete sentence, their incarceration would actually cost the city of New Orleans over $1,000 more than their total unpaid legal debts. So how's that working out for you? Louisiana. In Washington, one man was actually jailed for 2 weeks for missing $60 in LFO payment. In Ohio, another was held in jail for over a month for unpaid legal debt of what, $250? Still, the issue of child support enforcement is actually complicated, some say. One cannot divide the progressive, as it is actually clear that enforcement is critical. That's what many of them say for single mothers. To enforce this is critical for single mothers, and then many of these men, they look at their children and they look like garbage. They look like garbage. And the money, you look at her nails, you see it in her nails. You'll see it in her Gucci bag. I want this, I want that. Mothers make up 5 out of 6 custodian parents. Did you hear me? 5 out of every 6 custodian parents is women. So who's doing all this to the men? The women. How's she doing it? She'll get on welfare. Backwards, that's farewell. And then the state goes after the man. See, I mean, and this all works in the state's favor because the state is getting paid hand over fist. They're getting paid hand over fist. So some 42% of all custodian parents actually live below the poverty level. 42%. Remember, 5 out of every 6 custodian parents are women. 42% of them live below the poverty level. Back in 2009, only 42% of custodian mothers actually received all the child support owed to them, and nearly 30% did not receive any child support payments at all. So the budget for child support enforcement has actually dropped since the Bush administration Deficit Reduction Act. And something these feminist groups are opposed to. But my question, and you can address this when we open this up, is the solution to lock up poor debtors, collect small sums from them, and then brag about it, as many of these sheriffs do, or many of these people or these social workers? Is that the solution? Is that the solution? How is that helping the son or daughter if the father's locked up and can't do anything? Then goes more in the rears. Is that the solution? It's just a question. It's a question. So this child support debt is owed to the state governments as reimbursements for welfare payments that have already been paid to, they say, the children, but I'm going to say to the mothers, and that public sector's entities actually regarding collecting debts from poor fathers that they label deadbeat dads as a source of revenue from the state. So, I was looking at a photograph in a newspaper article, on NewJersey.com. It was published by NewJersey.com. In this story about New Jersey child support debtors raid, it's actually, it was revealing a young so-called black male, and he was approximately, I would say, about in his 20s, being taken out of what appears to be a residence and arrested by 2 so-called white police officers. Now, the ACLU has actually found that jail time for legal financial obligations disproportionately impact people of color. I'm going to say that again. The ACLU has found that jail time for legal financial obligations disproportionately impact people of color. Incarceration is publicly threatening. And what? It can help the state look strong in its enforcement practices. But is it really doing justice for the sons and daughters? Is it? Incarceration of child support debtors is a part of a broader set of policies that, in the words of Ehrenreich, rob the poor, and that's pretty much what they're doing. Many of these people, they go in, they don't know how to stand as a man. They go in these courts and they go in dishonor and they play by their rules. I mean, many of them, they're having their checks garnished. You're having liens put against you. They're seizing everything that they can. This seizing of funds is also found at the federal level. A Department of Treasury rule still allows bank to seize all Social Security and disability benefits for child support debtors, even though typically protects up to 2 months of payment of these public benefits for other types of debts, but not for child support. Not for child support. This is a clique. This is a clique of criminals. This is a clique of criminals. Jail times for debtors persist, even though there are supposed to be, protections in place for those who are too poor to pay. In 1983, the Supreme Court held, Burden versus Georgia that courts must inquire into a defendant's reason for failing to pay a fine or restitution before sentencing him to serve time in prison as jail, and a person merely because of his poverty would be fundamentally unfair. So that even though finding of ability to pay the order support, some say it's necessary to both a finding of contempt and the penalty of coercive incarceration. So otherwise the incarceration can only be actually characterized as a punishment for being poor, for not being able to pay. Yet many child support obligors are indigent with irregular employment, limited earning potentials, and no arrest and questionable ability to pay. So, in theory and in summary, debtors' prison were outlawed at the federal level in 1983, pre-industrial America. Yet states' tendency to improve debtors as well as garnish public benefits reveal that the continuing freedom of local government, this color of law system, have to punish the poor to collect small sums. So, as well as deeply troubling implications, this can actually have for people of color, you so-called blacks, you so-called Hispanics. So, as the 18th annual Child Support Awareness Month, I think it's about the 18th or 20th, I can't remember which one, is upon us, new framework for aiding deadbeat parents must be considered in lieu of modern day debtors prison. And that is my take on that. So my new framework to you is that you should educate yourselves. It is your responsibility to educate yourselves. And if you do not, no one else will. No one else will, brothers and sisters. So, with that, if anyone, have any questions or have anything they would actually like to add, you know, um, you're free to do so at this time. Anyone have any questions? Can you guys hear me out there? Hey, Jay Jacksonville, can you speak in the room? Hey, Jay Jacksonville.